Sure. Here's section 1 of the story script, containing approximately 760 words, written with emotional depth, clarity, and no filler or repetition, in line with infidelity storytelling principles. It's crafted to work perfectly for a faceless narration video. I used to believe my father was invincible. He was the kind of man who made you feel safe just by walking into a room. People respected him. My friends admired him. And I wanted to be just like him. As a kid, I'd sit at the kitchen table watching him read the newspaper, the way he sipped his coffee, the way he spoke to my mom with warmth in his voice. We weren't rich, but we were happy. At least, that's what I thought. It started with little things. My dad, Daniel, suddenly started coming home later than usual. His excuse was always work, meetings, deadlines, emergencies. But he had never brought work home before. Now, his phone barely left his hand, and when it buzzed, he'd flinch. He laughed a little less, and he started forgetting things: my soccer game, Mom's anniversary dinner. I wanted to believe it was stress, maybe age catching up with him. But something in his eyes had changed, like he was hiding something. Something he didn't want us to see. One evening, I needed his iPad for a school project. I asked to borrow it, and he tossed it to me without a second thought. I sat on the couch and opened Safari, only for a message notification to pop up in the top corner. It was from someone labeled simply L. That seemed odd already. The preview showed one line: "Last night was amazing. I can still feel you." My stomach dropped. I stared at the screen for what felt like forever. Then I put the iPad down. My thoughts spiraled. Who was L? Was this a mistake? Maybe a friend joking, maybe a misunderstanding. But the knot in my chest told me I already knew the truth. That night, I didn't sleep. I kept playing different scenarios in my head, but no version made sense. The next day, I told my best friend Michael. We'd grown up together. He knew my family almost as well as I did. I told him everything I saw. Michael didn't say much at first. Then he asked the question I'd been avoiding: "Do you want to find out the truth?" I wasn't sure. But I nodded. So we came up with a plan. My dad had mentioned a business trip that weekend. It didn't make sense. He rarely traveled. Said he had to meet a vendor 2 towns over and would be back Sunday night. I told my mom I was spending the night at Michael's, and he did the same. But we had no intention of staying in. Saturday afternoon, we got on our bikes and followed his car, carefully, from a distance. It felt ridiculous at first, like we were part of some bad spy movie. But when he turned off the highway and pulled into a small hotel on the edge of town, the laughter stopped. Michael and I waited from across the street behind a convenience store. My dad got out of the car, checked his surroundings, and then someone stepped out of a nearby vehicle. It was Lena. Lena had been a friend of the family for years. She'd come to barbecues, game nights, even vacations. She used to bring her daughter over to play with me when we were kids. She was close to my mom, always helping with errands or organizing events. I couldn't process it. My dad walked up to her like it was normal. Like it was okay. Then he leaned in and kissed her, slowly, comfortably, like it wasn't their first time. That moment burned itself into my memory. I fumbled for my phone and started recording. I didn't know why. Maybe I needed proof because I didn't trust myself to believe what I saw. Maybe I thought no one would believe me. All I knew was that the man in that video wasn't the father I knew. Or maybe he was, and I had just never seen him clearly before. We didn't follow them inside. We didn't need to. I turned to Michael, and he didn't say a word. There was nothing left to say. We biked home in silence, the wind cold against my face. My chest felt hollow. I remember thinking that I would have preferred to be wrong. I would have taken embarrassment, even punishment, over the truth I now had to carry. Because once you see something like that, there's no going back. Let me know when you're ready for section 2, and I'll continue with the next 760 words. Absolutely. Here's section 2 of the script, continuing seamlessly from section 1, written with direct emotional impact, no repetition or filler, and structured for a faceless narration format. Word count is approximately 760 words. After that day, nothing felt real anymore. I walked through the house like a stranger. I avoided my dad every chance I got. I couldn't stand to look at him without hearing that woman's voice in my head, seeing his lips on hers. He would smile at me, ask how school was going, and I would nod, say fine, then lock myself in my room. My mom noticed the shift, of course. She asked if I was okay, if I was stressed, if something had happened with a friend. I lied every time. I hated lying to her. She didn't deserve to be kept in the dark. But I couldn't bring myself to be the one to shatter her world. I watched her cook dinner, hum to herself, pack my dad's lunch like she always did. She loved him blindly, and the thought of what the truth would do to her made me feel sick. Every day that passed with the secret inside me made it harder to breathe. I started slipping in school, missing homework, ignoring texts from friends. My teachers asked questions, but I brushed them off. I couldn't focus on anything anymore. I couldn't escape the image of my father holding someone else the way he was supposed to only hold my mother. It followed me to bed. It met me in the morning. And worst of all, I started to feel like I was the one doing something wrong. One night, I came home to find my mom sitting at the dining table, surrounded by photos. She was making a scrapbook for my dad's birthday, something thoughtful, filled with memories, inside jokes, and love. She looked up and smiled, said she couldn't wait to give it to him. My throat closed up. My heart pounded so hard I thought it would tear through my chest. I wanted to scream, to rip the pages apart, to tell her the truth and end the lie we were all living in. Instead, I said I was tired and went to my room. I stayed up all night staring at the ceiling, hearing her laugh from the kitchen hours earlier, trying to understand how my father could do this and still sleep beside her every night. I kept asking myself, what do I do now? Do I tell her and destroy the family? Or do I bury it and live with this weight for the rest of my life? But I couldn't keep pretending. I needed answers. I needed him to admit it to my face. The next day, I waited until we were alone. I told him we needed to talk. He looked confused at first, even concerned, but that disappeared the moment I pulled out my phone and played the video. For a second, he didn't say a word. Then he closed his eyes and sighed, like someone who'd finally been caught after outrunning the truth for too long. He didn't deny it. He didn't even try. He sat down and rubbed his hands together, then started talking. He said things had been hard lately. That marriage was more complicated than I could understand. That he'd made a mistake. That he never meant for it to happen. That it didn't mean he didn't love my mom or me. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just stared at him. Because nothing he said mattered. A mistake is when you drop a glass or forget a birthday. This wasn't a mistake. This was a choice. Over and over again. A betrayal lived in, returned to, and protected with lies. I asked him how long it had been going on. He didn't answer. I asked if he loved her. He hesitated. That told me everything I needed to know. Then he begged. Not for forgiveness. But for silence. He said telling Mom would destroy her. That she didn't deserve that pain. That I should protect her. That if I really loved her, I'd keep this between us. That broke me more than anything else. Because in that moment, he made me the keeper of his shame. He placed the weight of his betrayal on my back and expected me to carry it for him. Like it was my responsibility now. Like it wasn't already crushing me. I told him I didn't know who he was anymore. I said I wasn't afraid of him, but I was done pretending he was someone to look up to. I told him I didn't respect him. That I probably never would again. And I walked away before he could say another word. From that day on, we spoke only when necessary. My father, once the man I thought I could count on for anything, became someone I avoided in my own home. The distance between us wasn't spoken about, but it was felt. Every meal, every silent glance, every fake smile, it all cracked further under the weight of what I knew. And the truth waiting to come out. Let me know when you're ready for section 3, and I'll complete the final part of the story. Here is section 3 of the script, written to match your tone and structure preferences, no filler, no repetition, emotionally grounded, and perfectly suited for a faceless narration. Word count is approximately 760 words. I knew I couldn't live in silence forever. Every time I saw my mom smile at him, every time she made his favorite meal or asked if he needed anything, it made my skin crawl. She was still giving him everything, and he was giving half of himself to someone else. I tried to convince myself it wasn't my responsibility to tell her. That it wasn't my place. But every excuse I made felt like another betrayal. One afternoon, I sat down and wrote a letter. I told her everything. From the message I saw to the video I took to the confrontation. I told her I didn't know how to say it out loud because I didn't want to hurt her, but I also couldn't lie anymore. I left the letter in my desk drawer. I read it every night before bed and put it back without delivering it. The guilt was unbearable. I was lying to her by pretending nothing had changed, and I was letting him get away with it. He got to sit at the table and act like a husband. He got to kiss her goodnight and call it love. I couldn't let that continue. So I told her, not with a letter. Not in a dramatic scene. Just the two of us, sitting in the kitchen. I told her I needed to talk, and she gave me that same patient look she always had when I was younger and scared to tell her I'd broken something. I told her the truth. All of it. Her expression didn't change much. No yelling, no denial. She just went quiet. After a few seconds, she asked me one question. How long have you known? When I answered, she nodded slowly and said, "Thank you for telling me." That was it. She didn't cry in front of me. She didn't fall apart. But something in her eyes dimmed. That light she always carried, the warmth she had for everyone, it faded in a matter of seconds. And I hated my father for doing that to her. I hated that she had to find out this way. I hated that I had to be the one to make it happen. But deep down, I knew she deserved the truth, no matter how painful it was. My father moved out a week later. There was no dramatic confrontation, no public fight. She handed him the truth with calm finality, and he didn't try to deny it. He packed his things and left. I never asked where he went. I didn't care. The house felt different after that. Quieter. My mom stopped playing music in the kitchen. She spent more time in her room. We spoke, but it was brief, functional. She didn't blame me. She even said she was proud of me for having the courage to tell her. But pride doesn't fix the silence that follows betrayal. Holidays became strange. We didn't know how to do Thanksgiving with just the two of us. Birthdays felt like reminders of what we lost. I stopped hearing from my dad unless it was about something logistical. He'd text once in a while, ask how school was going. I never responded. There were moments I missed him, not the man who cheated, but the one I thought he was. That version of him still lived somewhere in my memory, untarnished. But now I understood he was never really that person. He was just better at hiding. Michael stayed close. He never pushed, never pried. Just showed up when I needed him. Some nights we'd sit in silence, both of us knowing the weight I carried but not needing to talk about it. That helped more than he'll ever know. Eventually, my mom started going out more. She smiled again, slowly. Not often, but when she did, it looked real. And I started healing too. Not by forgetting what happened, but by learning to live with it. I realized that forgiveness doesn't always mean reconciliation. Sometimes, it just means choosing not to let someone else's decisions define you. I don't think I'll ever trust the way I used to. I'm cautious now. A little colder. But I'm not bitter. I'm more aware. I see people for who they are, not who I want them to be. My father's betrayal didn't just end a marriage, it ended a version of me. The version that believed love guaranteed loyalty. That trust, once earned, couldn't be broken. Now I know better. He didn't just cheat on my mother. He rewrote our entire family's story without our permission. And no matter how many years pass, I'll never look at him the same. Some things change you. Some truths stay with you forever. This was one of them.